Hello and welcome to the morning sports briefing here on the Monday, the 29th of June. Happy Monday, everybody. Let's have a great week. In the news this week, Cronulla Sharks break duck. Joe Root reminds his batsmen to be on guard. Reports claims global season is dead in the water. And we have results, and more results from basketball, netball, and motorsport from the weekend. So this is your best way to start the day, up to date with all of the important sports news. And let's get into it with that football news. And over in the EPL, Watford have lost to Southampton 1-3 in the end. In the FA Cup, Sheffield United lost to Arsenal, so Arsenal join Man United, who go through, as do Chelsea, who beat Leicester City 0-1. We also have live at the moment Newcastle United versus Man City, and currently Man City are 0-1 up in that one with 60 minutes gone, so half an hour left to go in that one. We'll bring you that result, obviously, tomorrow, as it will be still going as we're still chatting today. Over in the Belarusian Premier League, and Torpedoes continue their good form with a win over Verbitsk 1-0. Well, actually, sorry, they ended a run of bad form, should I say, having had 2 draws and a loss in the last 3 games. And Rua Brest beats Belashina 3-0. Ongoing at the moment is Gorodea versus Ishlok, and Gorodea are currently losing 0-2 with into extra time. So not looking good there for Stephen Harris's team. Unfortunately, Stephen still plummeting down the table. But I think we all pretty much had a bad weekend with Dynamo Brest also losing, and also my team as well. So yes, a bad weekend for the morning sports briefing, boys, in the old football. And with that, I'll hand you over to Ashwin, who'll take us through our cricket update.
No cricket update today. I'm too disappointed with Dynamo Brest losing. So, but thank you, Paul, and good morning to all our viewers and our listeners out there on the interweb. And as we look to some actual cricket starting shortly, we're not too far away. 8th of July. It's about just over a week now. Just over a week. Joe Root is reminding his batsmen not to underestimate the formidable bowling attack from the West Indies. With the West Indies banking on their pace attack to defend the Wisden Trophy they claimed in the series in 2019, 2-1. Root has said that the English batsmen could not afford to lower their guard against an attack that features the likes of Jason Holder, Kemar Roach and Shannon Gabriel, the trio all within the top 20 of the ICC bowling rankings. Holder is at 3 in the rankings, with Roach at 11 and Gabriel at 19. In comparison, England have their own in the top 20, with Anderson at 8 and Broad at 13 within that top 20. Now, news from that English bowling camp is Broad and Anderson facing increased competition for those test bowling spots. With the return of injury of Jofra Archer, England have great options within their fast bowling stocks. Adding to Archer, there is also Mark Wood and Ollie Stone. Now, all 3 bowlers are genuine fast bowlers, where their stock deliveries are over 140 kilometers an hour, or kilometers an hour. This gives the English great options with their fast medium seam bowling attack, as well as their swing bowling attack. Now, it'll just come down to the conditions on the day at the toss they make on the at the pitch as to what the bowling makeup will be for the first test. Now, it doesn't matter who makes it to the first test. England are looking to rotate their players to make sure that they spread their workload across their bowling lineup. Now, concerns are also mounting over BBL crowd numbers in Australia. Fan favourite Brad Hogg has urged the organisers of the BBL to get back to basics after crowd numbers have dropped alarmingly in the last 2 seasons. From a high of 80,000 people at a BBL fixture in 2015-16, last season's quarterfinal between the 2 table-topping sides was played in front of just 13,000 fans at the same venue. many complain that the competition just got on too long. It's like it's gone from, get this, from 35 matches in the 2016-17 season to 61 now in the last 2 seasons. And what that means is the final series now runs into February when the school year has already started. And that's a major impact into when you can go out for a late night to watch a bit of T20 cricket. Well, that today, Paul, is our cricket news.
Thank you very much, Ashwin. And we'll hand you over to Stephen.
Interesting start to the morning. A very early morning visitor popped up at the door, but hey, listen, we are back in the hot seat here, and we'll calm ourselves and get back into things. And speaking of calm ourselves, it's the start of a new week. So good morning to New Zealand Sports Radio, and we'll start with our birthdays. Birthdays this morning, a New Zealand pivot who has carved out an impressive career in the Gallagher Premiership, the Samoan-born prop. And finally, a world record holder in the men's Cox Pier rowing, and that's where we start this morning. Caleb Shepherd, born this day, the 29th of June, 1993, as a New Zealand rowing Cox. He holds the world's best time in the men's Cox Pier. That was in 2014 and represented at the Rio Olympics in the New Zealand 8. He also coxed the New Zealand Women's 8 to their 2019 World Championship title. So there you go. He's moved between both our men and our women. Moving on, Hisa Sasagi, born this day, the 29th of June, 1987, is a Samoan rugby union player who currently plays as a prop for Otago in the ITM Cup, but I suspect that's the Mitre 10 Cup these days. Despite deputising for the Razorbacks in 2012, it was not until 2015 when he finally established himself as a regular starter. His performances in helping Otago reach the championship semi-finals saw him named as a member of the Hurricanes wider training group ahead of the 2016 Super Rugby season. And finally, Jimmy Gopperth, born this day, the 29th of June, 1983, is a New Zealand rugby union player who plays for Wasps in the English Premiership. His position is fly half. Gopperth also represented both Wellington and North Harbour at provincial level and the Hurricanes and Blues at a Super Rugby level. Gopperth has never played for his national team, the All Blacks, but has made 2 appearances for the second string team, the Junior All Blacks. His appearances were during the Pacific Nations Cup, which the Junior All Blacks won both tests versus Samoa and Tonga. That'd be a while ago as well, I would imagine. Now, Jimmy Gopperth, Paul, was he very close to the England rugby team at some stage?
Well, he certainly made it to being Premiership Player of the Season at one stage. So, yes, you've got to say he would have been within. They would have been aware of him, definitely. And he'd be on the fringes there. I think he's probably someone a bit like Gareth Steenson, who was an Irish player who played in England, who was kind of on the edge, but probably made it clear that it wasn't really his. Basically, he was Irish. I think probably Gopperth went probably similarly down that kind of route, making it clear that he didn't actually want to play for England. I think is where he went. So, good career heading over to Ireland as well as England, and definitely made a big mark for himself up there in the Northern Hemisphere. Moving on then to our rugby news, and the reports claim that the global season is dead in the water. What people were expecting or hoping to happen would be that the European club season would move through from December through till July, or that would be our club season. The Six Nations would overlap with that, and then we would have tours down under in October and back up north in November. Was kind of, or international tours was kind of the plan. But the French top 14 clubs say that moving to a summer rugby would be basically financially disastrous for them, and so hence they are saying no. Apparently, they were also upset with some of Mark Robinson's comments about club obstruction in the process when the clubs hadn't been involved in the process until basically the last minute. So yes, we'll have to wait and see how much of that is rumour and how much of that is true. It always looked like it would be difficult to get this through, as much as people said, oh, we're starting with a blank slate and all of that kind of thing. Also, an important win for the Crusaders yesterday, who beat the Chiefs 18-13. When it was 18-3, it looked like it was all over soon after half-time. But the Crusaders showed real grit to get themselves back into the game. They were their own worst enemies, with the Crusaders picking up both their tries from mistakes by the Chiefs, falling asleep at a line-out, and then also not collecting a high kick. There were comments after the game around the refereeing, but folks, please, look, it may or may not have been the right call, but at the end of the day, referees make mistakes, just like players make mistakes too. And you've got to say that we should be enjoying the rugby, and let's concentrate on the positives rather than the negatives. Moving on then, I'm going to hand you back to Stephen, who'll take us through our NRL update.
Yeah, thanks very much, Paul. Well, closing out round 7, Cronulla have overturned one of the biggest hoodoos in the NRL, scoring a thumping 40-22 win over Manly in Gosford. It was just the third time in 12 years the Sharks tasted victory over the bogey team, but looked a class above in miserable conditions yesterday afternoon at Central Coast Stadium. And while the Sea Eagles were without stars Dylan Walker and Tom Trovic, their defence didn't shape up against a Shark spine, which had found its groove. Sean Johnson, Matt Moylan and Chad Townsend all set up tries, in the first half to lead 18-6 at the break. And between them, had a hand in all 7 of the Sharks' 4-pointers. Townsend had the best of them in the 54th minute with a miraculous catch and pass while falling, setting flying winger Sione Katoa up for his second try of the match. Katoa's put down while in the air was inch perfect, demonstrating the skills which had landed him 8 tries from 7 games this season. And while Townsend set up 3 tries, Johnson extended his lead for the most try assists in the NRL this season to 10, with 2 for the night. Wasn't too long ago he was being maligned about the way he was playing. The Sea Eagles had won 17 of their 19 past games against the Cronulla, dating back to 2008, for the equal best winning record of any NRL team against an opponent. However, nothing went right for Des Hasler's side, who struggled to find potency in attack without their star fullback Tom Trovic unavailable. The Sharks led 18-6 at halftime, and that final score again, we had Cronulla 40, Manly 22, which just left us the one game in the round. And in that final game, the West Tigers put together their 3rd win in a row, toppling Canterbury Bankstown at Bankwest Stadium 34-6 after leading 16-6 at halftime in what was arguably their best performance of the season. David Nofaluma and Tony Talo shone with 2 tries each, so that final score again, 34-6, and that wraps it all up. And Paul, I think you have the NRL table there for us that we can have a quick squiz at. If we can get you to pop that up, please. Coming to us very, very shortly, and there's our table. As we look at it, not a lot of change at the top. The Eels still out in front, remembering 7 rounds gone there with 12 points. Panthers just behind them with the Raiders, Storm, Knights, West Tigers, Raiders, and the Sea Eagles, despite the loss, just slipping in to that 8th place. And as we look down for the beleaguered Warriors, sitting down there in 14th place. But I'll tell you what, that with this particular table, it's oh so close. You only really need to string together a couple of wins and you're almost back in that top 8. Although I've got to say for the Warriors, it could be a tough ask. And that's pretty much round 7 all wrapped up for the weekend. I'll be back shortly, though, with some UFC news, Paul.
There is, yeah, but you're saying that in some ways looking at the goal or points difference is a better guide as to who are the top teams and who are the not so top teams. When you look at the Roosters with 132 points difference, stand out there, even though they're not top of the table. They are, I think, a lot of people considering them to be the top or the team sort of to beat. And then when you get further down there, when you think that the Warriors and Broncos on minus 103 and minus 117 show you that there's shipping too many points, and see how they're going to sort of turn that around.
Well, that's a good word, Paul, because shipping, they're kind of leaking points, aren't they? The ship basically is taking on water big time, and it's going to take something extra special to patch it all up. Just looking at that table again, you can see why the Roosters are the reigning premiers, looking to do it for the third time, because they've scored 201 points and their against record is only 69 points. If that's correct, that's pretty incredible after 7 games, Paul. My maths is not that good at this time of the morning, but I think that might work out to about just under 10 points a game. Is that correct?
So so just under 10 points a game given up. I mean, but basically, when you've scored more points than anybody else, and when you've given up less points than everyone else, you're going to be very good. So, moving on then to netball news, and overnight, last evening, the Stars lost to the Steel 47-49. A close one there. So the Steel, having played 2 games in 2 days, come up with their first win of the season. So congratulations to the Southern Steel. All the teams now have won at least 1 game. With the Northern Mystics played 3-1-3 top of the table, being chased closely by the Central Pulse, who played 2-1-2 there in that one. This evening, the Pulse will have a chance to catch up with the Mystics when they go head-to-head tonight. So yes, top of the table clash, Pulse versus the Mystics from 7 p.m. this evening up there at the Auckland Netball Centre. So if there are any tickets left, that will be a cracker. Get along to that game in St John's. Also, moving on then to basketball news. And the Franklin Bulls played the Auckland Huskies, Battle of Auckland, for the first time ever. The Huskies, coming off the back of a 67-95 loss the day before, lost again to the Franklin Bulls, and it's some 63-59, a really low scoring affair, which probably tells you why these two teams had come into this game with 0 wins, because they're just not putting the scores on they're just not shooting, their shooting percentages are just way too low. The Nelson Giants also played last night, playing the Manawatu Jets. The Manawatu Jets, again, they were also coming off playing the nights before, where they'd beaten the Auckland Huskies. The Giants came into this one without any wins, the Jets coming off the back of their first win of the season. But it was the Giants that won it 88-83 in full time. The next games will be tonight, where we have the Taranaki Mountaineers taking on the Auckland Huskies. That'll be the 3rd game in 3 days for the Huskies. And then the Giants having to back up against the Franklin Bulls. So both sides who played yesterday having again to play today. Looking at their table, yes, the Auckland Huskies and the Nelson Giants both will be looking for their first. Oh no, sorry, that's an out-of-date table there. Sorry, folks, because obviously the Giants, I just said, got their first win of the season. The Auckland Huskies will be looking for their first win tonight, but at the top of the table, we have the Canterbury Rams with 3 wins from 3 games, closely followed by the Otago Nuggets with 2 wins from 2 games. And then it's Taranaki Mountaineers chasing them with 2 wins and that 1 loss. So that's your top 3 there. I'll hand you back to Stephen now. He's going to take us through UFC news.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. And it was an incredible fight. In fact, a lot of people tweeting yesterday saying it's probably one of the best fights of the year, and we've already seen a couple of beauties. Dustin Poirier won a thrilling unanimous decision over New Zealand's Dan Hooker, surviving a brutal second round and preserving to finish a well-rounded performance in the main event at UFC's corporate gym in Las Vegas. Hooker fought the bout of his life, but it wasn't enough, as he eyed a potential progression progression to a world title fight. In a gripping lightweight contest that had viewers marveling at the intensity, Poirier got the decision over the brave Kiwi in the UFC main event yesterday. The judges scored at 48-47, 48-47, and 48-46 in Poirier's favour, and about that went the distance over five-minute rounds. Poirier was ranked the number 3 contender to Hooker's number 5 heading into the fight. The main event was a barn burner from the opening round, with both lightweights trading wicked strikes and displaying minimal regard for defence. The second round was an absolute spectacle, with each fighter badly hurting the other while throwing punches and knees at full power. The fight went to the ground in the fourth round, with Poirier attempted several submissions before Hooker escaped. Poirier appeared to have more energy left for the fifth round, and he won on all 3 cards. It was a tough one, Poirier said. Dan came to fight. He's a tough guy. He's on the rise. He really thought he was going to get past me. I trusted in my team and my skill and my work ethic. And other fights on the card, Mike Perry also ended his 2-fight skid with a one-sided unanimous decision over Mickey Gall in the penultimate fight of the evening. Heavyweight Maurice Green stopped his 2-fight skid with an unorthodox submission of Guyan Valiante, who was on top of Green and apparently in control when Green wrapped an arm around his head, although Green 9-4 didn't have a traditional choke lock around Valante's neck. An exhausted Valante was unable to move and tapped out with 1 minute and 16 seconds left in the fight. Japanese welterweight Takashi Sato produced one of the most impressive stoppages of the night, beating late replacement opponent Jason Witt with a flurry of strikes in just 48 seconds. Julian Erosa, another late replacement opponent, won his fight on 5 days' notice, which is impressive, by forcing Sean Woodson to tap out with a choke midway through the third round. Erosa was dropped from the UFC roster last year after 3 straight losses, but seized his last-minute chance to return. A string of 5 consecutive finishes began with the second fight of the night. Kay Hansen, a 20-year-old strawweight, making her UFC debut, beat Jin Yu Frey in the third round with an armbar finish reminiscent of her hero, Ronda Rousey. And who could ever forget Ronda Rousey? Just a quick little update as well. Dan the Hangman Hooker, he's ended up in a hospital, but I believe he's in a reasonable condition. But it was a very, very brutal fight, Paul, that was seen around the world. So that's UFC for today. The good thing, even though Hooker has lost that fight, I think he would have won a lot of respect for his efforts in the ring. And I think if he had to fight Poirier again, I think he'll basically look at his tactics. He just really took too many hits to the head, Paul, just too many, got in too close, actually had the reach advantage, but just took too many shots. And I think he should have really kept his distance, used a lot more kicks. And you could tell when he actually got tired, he actually started looking for takedowns. Unfortunately, when he was taking Poirier down, he kept getting a lot of punches on the ground. And I think that's basically what it came down to at the end of the day, Paul. He took out the first 2 rounds, but the next 3 rounds, he just took so many strikes. I think the judges came up with the right decision, and had the decision gone the other way, it would have been a travesty.
Yeah, it sounds like he needs to pace himself a bit more through those opening rounds. Went for the finish and didn't pull it off, and then didn't have enough gas to finish the fight. Thank you very much, Stephen. Moving on now to motor. Well, first off, you are listening to New Zealand Sports Radio here this morning. Moving on to motorsports, and the Supercars have signed a 5-year deal with Sky Sports, so they're going to be staying on the channel for the foreseeable future, and obviously the races will all be available to us over here in New Zealand. Over the weekend, we had 3 races. For the Scott McLaughlin took out the first race in race 7. He got beaten in race 8 with Nick Percat in the Dunlop Super Dealer Racing Holden. So reading that one before. Scott McLaughlin also won race 9 in his Shell V-Power racing team Ford Mustang. And that means that Scott McLaughlin is clear at the top of the table ahead of with 574 points, ahead of Jamie Whincup, who is 49 points behind, and then it's 142 points behind is Chaz Mostert. Those are your top three there in the Drivers' Championship. So Scott looking very good for another title in that. You have now started the day the best way, up to date with all the important sports news here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Don't forget, you can listen to us on the move. Download the podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, Acast, Spotify, all your favourite podcatchers. Have a wonderful day today, everyone. I'll be back at 2 p.m. today with a long talk interview. And then we'll be back this evening at 8 p.m. with the Driving Mall show.